The numbers are staggering. They are almost impossible to comprehend. According to a report jointly published by the Norway-based Human Rights Watch and the Human Rights Against the Death Penalty Group, the Islamic Republic of Iran executed 1,639 people in 2025. Let me say that number again. 1,639 human beings. This is the highest number of executions carried out by Iranian courts since 1989, the year that Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei took power. He inherited the position after the death of his predecessor, Grand Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who passed away from a heart attack in that same year. For 36 years, the Islamic Republic has executed its opponents, but never at this scale. The year 2025 marked a turning point, a descent into a new level of barbarism, and the bloodshed did not stop when the calendar turned to 2026. Under the leadership of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the Islamic Republic has intensified its crackdown on opposition groups with each passing year. But in 2025 and early 2026, the regime became more severe than ever before. Arrests, show trials, public hangings. The victims are accused of one thing: rebelling against the Islamic Republic. In many cases, the evidence is thin. In some cases, there is no evidence at all. The accusation alone is enough. The two human rights organizations observed that Iranian authorities have become increasingly aggressive. Security forces run from village to village, detaining suspects. People disappear. Their bodies are later found in the middle of fields dumped like garbage. Most executions, however, are carried out behind closed doors inside prisons and detention centers, where no cameras can see, where no journalists can report, where the world can pretend not to know. To understand the execution surge, you must understand what happened in January 2026. An estimated 6 million people took to the streets across Iran. They were not all political activists. They were students. They were farmers. They were shopkeepers. They were mothers carrying children. They were young men and women crying out for freedom. The protests were massive, the largest since the Islamic Republic's founding in 1979. The goal, according to some reports, was to seize key institutions and force a change of regime. And according to intelligence sources, the protesters were acting at the behest of President Donald Trump, though this claim remains disputed. What is not disputed is the regime's response. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard caused the IRGC cracked down with brutal efficiency. Tear gas filled the streets. In some areas, riot police opened fire directly on unarmed protesters. The death toll was catastrophic. In the capital, Tehran, more than 4,000 protesters were killed in the first days alone. But that was only the beginning. As of January 20, 2026, local Iranian human rights organizations reported the following numbers to international media. Deaths: between 36,000 and 400 injuries, approximately 330 arrests, approximately 100. These are not the numbers of a protest. These are the numbers of a massacre. Perhaps the most horrifying detail is this: even protesters who made it to hospitals who sought medical care for their wounds were not safe. Human rights organizations report that Iranian security forces entered hospitals, identified wounded protesters, and killed them in their beds. In some cases, they were shot. In other cases, they were taken away and never seen again. The regime's message was clear: there is no refuge. There is no sanctuary. There is no safe place to be an opponent of the Islamic Republic. The execution numbers tell the same story. In 2024, Iranian courts executed 975 people. That number was already horrifying. It drew international condemnation. But in 2025, the number jumped to 1,639. That is an increase of 68%. 68% in a single year. The largest year-over-year increase since the Islamic Republic's founding. And the idea of executing people, of using the death penalty as a political weapon, has been revived with renewed energy after the January 2026 uprising. The regime is not slowing down. It is accelerating. Beyond the executions and the protest deaths, there is another category of victim that disappeared. Human rights organizations are investigating reports of abductions that happen every night across the country. Security forces knock on doors. They pull people from their homes. They stop cars at checkpoints and take passengers away. These people are not arrested in any legal sense. There are no charges. There are no lawyers. There are no court dates. They simply vanish. Days later, sometimes weeks later, their bodies are found in fields, in alleys, in shallow graves, or they are never found at all. Human rights monitors call these enforced disappearances. Under international law, they are a crime against humanity. Despite this reign of terror, young Iranians who cry out for freedom are still prepared to oppose the Islamic Republic. They are afraid. Of course, they are afraid. They have seen 40,000 of their fellow citizens killed in a single month. They have seen 100,000 arrested. They have seen 1,639 executed in a single year. They fear another round of mass killings. But the fear has not extinguished the flame. Protesters are still giving signs through social media, through whispered conversations, through coded messages that they will gather again. They want to show the world that the majority of Iranians do not support the current regime, and the numbers back them up. In a country of more than 90 million people, polls and surveys indicate that approximately 80% do not support the Islamic Republic of Iran. 80%. The regime is a minority. It rules by force, not by consent. US President Donald Trump has watched these events closely. He has stated that he wants to see a revival of protests against the Iranian regime. But he has also said something that might surprise you. He does not want to see protesters killed in the same way as in January. He wants to see a change of leadership in Iran, but only through peaceful means. However, Prime Minister Yad Vashem, the text appears to refer to an Israeli or Western leader. The name is preserved as Given has offered a different perspective. He said that the regime in Tehran will not fall if the Iranian people do not rise up. He sees this as the only opportunity for the Iranian people to overthrow their dictatorial leader. There is no foreign army that can do it for them. There is no missile strike that can topple the system from outside. The regime would only fall when the people decide collectively, courageously, that they have had enough. The Crown Prince of Iran, the heir to the monarchy that was overthrown in 1979, currently lives abroad. He has not forgotten his country. He has not abandoned his people. He still tells his compatriots at home to be very careful. He urges them to wait for the right time to rise up against the Islamic Republic. But he also acknowledges a painful truth. He has left. He is not there, and only the United States, he believes, can help free the Iranian people from the current oppressive regime. He urges the people not to lose hope. The US and Israel's war strategy, he says, is still in place despite the talks and ceasefires. The fight is not over, but the people of Tehran and other cities are living in fear. Even as some groups dare to oppose the government, they do so knowing that the next knock on the door could be their last. The Islamic Republic is not blind to its unpopularity. It knows that 80% of the population does not support it. So it has built a propaganda machine to create the illusion of support. The regime regularly organizes mass ceremonies. It mobilizes hundreds of thousands of people, busloads of government employees, members of state-sponsored militias, students from religious schools, and leads them in demonstrations against the United States. These rallies are televised. They are photographed. They are presented to the world as proof that the Iranian people stand with the Islamic Republic. But who are these people? Most of them are members of the regime's inner circle, the sons of Revolutionary Guard generals, government employees who attend under threat of losing their jobs, people who are paid to show up. They are not the Iranian people. They are a carefully selected, heavily coerced minority. Currently, a ceasefire is being implemented between Iran and the United States. The 40-day war has paused. The bombs have stopped falling for now. But experts see that the Iranian people are in a state of limbo. They give signs that a new revolution will break out. But no one knows when. The US military is withdrawing from the war, leaving the Islamic Republic to survive wounded, but still standing. The United States is pushing the Islamic Republic to accept certain conditions. The goal, according to Trump, is regime change, but not through invasion, through pressure, through isolation, through the slow strangulation of the economy. And yet, the regime survives. Here is a fact that cannot be ignored. The Islamic Republic has already lost many of its top leaders. On the very first day of the 40-day war, February 28, the most senior Ayatollah of the Islamic Republic was killed by US and Israeli warplanes. The man who had ruled Iran for nearly 4 decades was gone within hours of the conflict's outbreak. And he was not alone. Over the course of the war, more than 50 top leaders and generals were killed by American and Israeli airstrikes. The URG's command structure was decapitated. The regime's chain of command was shattered. Prime Minister Neho, preserved as Given, acknowledged that the Iranian people must now put aside their fears and gather the courage to overthrow the Islamic Republic, a regime that itself came to power by overthrowing the Iranian monarchy. Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the text appears to conflate the Saudi crown prince with the Iranian crown prince. I will preserve the name as given, but note the likely intended reference is to Reza Pahlavi, the son of the last Shah of Iran, still believes that the United States of America, under the Trump administration, will bring about a regime change in Tehran. He believes that the monarchy will be restored. Whether that belief is realistic or not, it gives hope to the Iranian diaspora, the millions of Iranians who fled the Islamic Republic and now live in exile, watching from afar, waiting for the day they can return to a free homeland. The international community has not remained silent. 1 month ago, the Human Rights Council, based in Geneva, Switzerland, held an emergency session. The topic was the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Council adopted a resolution condemning the regime. The language was strong, unusually strong for an body that often waters down its criticisms to achieve consensus. The resolution called the Islamic Republic of Iran the most barbaric regime facing the world today. It accused the regime of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. Why? Because the Islamic Republic has resorted to killing its own people to maintain power. Not enemies, not foreign combatants, its own citizens, its own children, its own future. Let us return to the numbers one more time, because numbers have a way of becoming abstract. They need to be made human. 1,639 executions in 2025. That is more than 4 people every single day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. 975 executions in 2024, a 68% increase. 40,000 protesters killed in January 2026 alone. 330,000 injured, 100,000 arrested, tens of thousands disappeared. 80% of the population does not support the regime. These are not statistics. These are human beings. Each number is a face. Each number is a name. Each number is a story that ends in blood. The ceasefire holds. The diplomats talk. The world watches. But the question that remains, the question that no one can answer, is this: how long can a regime survive when 80% of its people want it gone? How long can the Islamic Republic of Iran continue to execute, imprison, and disappear its own citizens before the next uprising comes? And when it comes, not if, but when will the world do more than watch? The Iranian people are waiting. They have been waiting for 47 years. They are tired. They are afraid. They are grieving. But they have not given up. And that, perhaps, is the regime's greatest fear.